All right. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya of the Louisiana Saints New Orleans camp with the brother Karaitazah from Pensacola. And before we get started, as always, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. And hey, I'm over here in Pensacola because if you've been paying attention to the news, they got Hurricane Ida hitting the Louisiana coast area right now. And it remains to be seen what's happening. But yesterday I ran into the brother Karaitazah at the store. And hey, we're fellowshipping now, doing what brothers are supposed to be doing, keeping the work going on. But we're just going to get straight into the lesson, starting it off with 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11.
2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
And of course, we know we got the spiritual demon Satan, the top left-handed angel on the left-hand side of the Most High. But this is talking about the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, more specifically their elites, like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Gettys, DuPonts, Merovingians, you name it, the ones that are pushing for this NW0 agenda and are pushing all these different devices out here to get the people's minds to wander after the Krispy Kreme 1.9, since you brothers know we got to speak in codes, the Valerie that goes with it, and then eventually the Marcus, the RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT. And another part of the devices of the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan is this demonization campaign to come against the men of the Lord, which entails the famine of the word, getting these video epistles off the internet, and then getting the men of the Lord off the highways and byways. Because this devil knows that what we're preaching is the main thing that's bringing down his kingdom, as it says in Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. This is the power of the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi that myself and you other sincere Akim out there are preaching. By us preaching this vibration out there is taking down Esau's rulership. And these elites understand the scriptures, and that's why they're coming with all these different campaigns to get rid of this word and then eventually come after the men of the Lord and try to put as many to death as he can. And hey, we're not ignorant of his devices, as it says in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11, because we have the Spirit dealing with us, and we're making it plain upon the tables so that they that read it may run, as it says in Habakkuk chapter 2, relaying this message to you other sincere Akim and Akwa, or the sisters out there as well, so you know exactly what times you're living in. But in this video, we'll be going into an article on endoftheamericandream.com just to give another example of some of the devices that the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan is going into. You got it, Ike?
The title of the article is End of the American Dream. It says they have come up with some ominous new definitions for what constitutes domestic terrorism.
They have come up with some ominous, which are a very bad sign, ominous new definitions for what constitutes as a so-called domestic terrorist. And what have we seen over these past couple of years? Talks about black identity extremists, black nationalists, you name it. And whenever the Hebrew Israelites get any type of media play, what's that label they always add to the front of it? Black. Hey, you had that situation that went on at Washington, D.C., where they labeled those Israelites, I think it was HOI. Yeah, I think it was HOI. They labeled in the black Hebrew Israelites. The situation that happened in New Jersey, that shooting at that kosher deli, as we'll call it, was, they said, committed by so-called black Hebrew Israelites. And then over in California, they had somebody put up a sign in front of like a kosher market, an Amalekite market, saying Yahawashi is coming, and they labeled that as so-called anti-Semitic speech, referring it back to the so-called black Hebrew Israelites. Hey, all these are buzzwords to, again, come after the men of the Lord. Hey, chiefly to come after GMS or Great Millstone, because it should be clear to see at this point who has that 144% doctrine. Everything beginning with our apostle on elders on down that the brothers have been preaching are taking place right before your very eyes. And as the brothers, the sincere brothers in GMS stand firm and keep preaching this word, you're seeing all these other camps fall by the wayside. So we're going to be the main targets when Esau really pulls this trigger on this thing. So don't be surprised, Akim, when another, you got to think in code words how you say things because of YT's algorithms, another fabricated incident, as we'll call it, takes place, where they label it as a form of DT or domestic terror, and they could very well link it to us. They could link it to us or any other type of situation that comes out here that could be a very life-changing thing. Don't be surprised if they find some way to twist the narrative and link it to the Hebrew Israelites, and you may see your face on the news. You may have the alphabet boys come knocking at your door or anything like that. And we're preparing ourselves accordingly, and by going through these articles and going through precepts showing that this devil's about to come down in great wrath, and you brothers should have your spirits ready for these things to happen at any moment, because these are the times we're living in. We're literally a snap of a finger away from all hell breaking loose. Yeah, any points you want to make out? Oh, we'll just get into the article then.
It says, are you a potential domestic terrorist? You may not think so, but the Department of Homeland Security may see things quite differently. A brand of terrorism advisory has just been issued, and some of the things that it identifies as potential terror threats should chill us to the core. You see, the truth is that the definition of a terrorist is constantly evolving.
Yeah, that's what you have to remember. The definition of a so-called terrorist, according to Esau, is constantly evolving. Back in the 40s, it was the Germans, the Nazis during World War II. That was the boogeyman. During the Cold War, who was it? The Soviet Union with the Russian Edomites. During the Vietnam War, it was the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army. During Desert Storm, who was the number one man? Saddam Hussein. During the War on Terror, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Bin Laden. So it shouldn't be no different today. It's the boogeyman of choice on who Esau pushes to push a particular agenda. And we're coming into the final steps of this GREATRESET, that NW0. And the main roadblock to Esau trying to accomplish this so-called great work of his are the men of the Lord, preaching out there on the highways and byways and putting up these video epistles.
It says, in the old days, a Middle Eastern male that dresses in traditional Islamic attire, that grows opium in his field, and that carries around an AK-47 would have been considered a potential terrorist by U.S. authorities. But now we have lost the war in Afghanistan, and the Taliban are partying like it's 1999 in the presidential palace of Kabul. As a result, our spooks need a new group of potential terrorists to send to Guantanamo Bay. And so they are setting their sights on you.
And hey, ever since this whole situation happened in Afghanistan with the U.S. evacuating and everything, now they're pushing out that narrative of there could be another 911, because recently they said that some of the Afghani refugees that have been relocated to the U.S., some have ties to Al-Qaeda and even ISIS, and now they're pushing out these different senators and talking heads saying there could be a second 911. And if you remember, during the first 911 that happened, our apostle elders up in New York were arrested because they were considered suspects for the attacks that happened on the World Trade Center. Hey, the very same things can happen again. Hey, we know in the scriptures it says everything written aforetime was written for our learning, talking about the past. But hey, everything the men of the Lord are doing right now is being written. So everything brothers have gone through in the past took place aforetime for us to get an idea of what can happen now. And I know I've gone through it, and the brothers in my camps, and I know a lot of you brothers have gone through it as well. Whenever these ignorant people come up to the camps and talk to us, some of the first things they always ask us is, are you Muslim? And then, of course, you've had Louis Farrakhan, who pushes the NOI, the Nation of Islam, talking about the Hebrew Israelites a lot. And you had Nick Cannon, who said he was an Israelite for a while, giving big ups to Louis Farrakhan. So that narrative is already there, trying to tie us to Islam and all these other movements. So if another fabricated incident takes place, don't be surprised if you get a knock at your door from the Alphabet Boys or you see your face on the news. But regardless how it plays out, very soon we're about to become public enemy number one. And all these different pieces of government legislation they're talking about, all these different whispers of fabricated incidents or anything you're hearing in the news, just remember that at the forefront of all these agendas is going to be the men of the Lord. You can keep going up.
Come on. It says, you may be tempted to think that I am exaggerating, and I truly wish I was. NBC News is telling us that a terror alert has just been issued by Homeland Security. And during their report on this new terror alert, a very alarming graphic was shown to the viewers.
And now listen to some of these examples. They're saying what could constitute as a possibility to cause a DT or influence people to commit acts of DT.
Come on. It says, under the heading potential terror threats, the following 3 categories were listed. Opposition to CV measures.
Opposition to Krispy Kreme measures. And as you brothers should know, what's one of the main things ever since this whole situation took place we've been speaking out against? Speaking out against Valerie, speaking out, just saying the situation is not what it seems. It's a fabricated incident, saying everything against it, going into the information what the Valerie is doing, telling you Sincere Akim and Akwat out there not to deal with Valerie or anything like that. That's one of the main things we've been talking about. And we're also saying that, hey, this is just the precursor to the Marcus, the MOTB. So strike one, we're already under that blanket of this new DT measures that the Department of Homeland Security are coming out with. And it's going to be no different when they start pushing the MOTB, just how they're pushing the Valerie in this article, saying that the Department of Homeland Security is coming out with new guidelines saying that those that speak against Valerie or Krispy Kreme could be considered DTs. It's going to be no different with Marcus. If you speak out against Marcus and don't want to go get some hamburgers with him, hey, you're a DT. You're a DT. You're an enemy of the state, and you got to go to one of these isolation centers we got set up for you. We got to knock on your door, the Alphabet Boys, and question you about things.
Come on. The second one is claims of election fraud, belief that Trump can be reinstated.
And hey, Esau's slick. That's how you know Esau's the perfect devil, because he's willing to throw his own people under the bus to get at us. Because with all these talks of DTs or domestic terror issuances coming out, who's been the face of it so far? So-called white nationalists, white supremacists, and nobody's got a problem talking about them. But that's just them getting the foot in the door to start off with them and be like, look, these guys are a problem, but what about these black Hebrew Israelites? You remember Project Megiddo, when it talked about white nationalists, religious groups, and it had the so-called black Hebrew Israelites in it. Esau is willing to cut his what do they say? They got that saying, cut off your nose to spite the face. Esau is willing to cut off his own nose just to get at you Israelites, so to speak. And these elites already don't care about the average Joe Edomite out here. Hey, they're ready to foreclose on Babylon, America. So everything's just a means to an end to get at the men of the Lord and push forward this NW0.
And the third one is that the 9/11 anniversary and religious holidays.
Hey, that what could be considered a DT trigger would be an incident happening on the anniversary of 9/11. And like we just said earlier during the video, when 9/11 took place, what happened? Our apostle elders up in New York were arrested in so-called suspicion dealing with the 9/11. So hey, everything that happened before could give us an example of how things are going to play out now. But we know that however it goes, just remember, Akim, that you're the face the face of the agenda out there. Your face is square in that crosshairs that these elites have set up, the devices of Satan.
Come. And this is a NBC report. It says new DHS terrorism advisory is not based on any actual threats or plots. Goes on to claim potential threats from anti-governmental sentiment, anti-CV, pro-Trump, and uses 9/11 as religious holidays as triggering this warning. Is this psyops or news?
Hey, and remember, we went into 9/11 and what happened with our apostle elders. We went into how the Krispy Kreme, how we speak out against that. And at the top of this, it said on to claim potential threats from anti-government sentiment. And this whole truth is considered something that would be an antithesis to Esau's system. We preach the downfall of not only Babylon the Great, but Esau's government worldwide. So we're, as Apostle Gabar always says, you brothers got to realize that what we're doing is considered enemy of the state territory, seditious. And how did Esau deal with seditious behavior in the past? What's that word? Summary executions and persecution and all that. And we know that with this devil coming down in great wrath in Revelation 12, verse 12, hey, those those dragon type measures are about to come in again. Or if you do the slightest thing, hey, it's off with your head. But now we're going to play this segment from NBC's report from the Department of Homeland Security's DT advisory thread. And real quick, we don't own any of the information we're about to show in this clip. We don't copyright it, and we don't stand to gain from it monetarily. This is a fair use claim. We're simply using this information for educational purposes only. Okay. That's kind of playing.
That should be good,
Okay. Started back from the beginning.
Alert has been issued by Homeland Security tonight. Pete Williams is here. Pete, what do we know about this?
Well, DHS says this new terrorism advisory is not based on any actual threats or plots, but it says there's a rise in anti-government rhetoric. Some of it is opposition to COVID public health rules like mask and vaccine measures. Some calls for violent action are based on claims of election fraud or a belief that Donald Trump can be reinstated. And DHS says the coming 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks and religious holidays later this year could be catalysts for violence. The last terror advisory was issued in May. It expired today. This new one says domestic extremism remains a threat priority, Lester.
All right, Pete, thank you. Terror alert has been issued by Homeland.
And hey, that's from NBC, a major mainstream considered credible news network. So that goes to show that it's up there, Akim. They're putting it out into the airwaves for the mass majority to hear, putting that idea in the back of their head to where when they come out with a fabricated incident or whatever, and gear it towards blaming it on the men of the Lord, the people will already be psychologically prepared to accept the so-called official narrative. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We can just get into these precepts showing that, hey, this devil's about to come down in great wrath with his devices. And we know he's going to come with that physical sword, with the troops on the streets, the AR-15s, the grenades, the tanks, the camps, you name it. But the beginning stages of it is going to be him coming with that subtile sword, that serpent sword, that forked tongue, that silver tongue, his speech, pushing out his guile and his deceptions out there through the media to, again, psychologically prepare these people to accept whatever narrative they're coming with. And you brothers can't be ignorant of Satan's devices. You got to be prepared for anything to come down the pipeline. Because when an animal is backed into a corner and he's got nothing left to do but fight for his life, best believe he's coming with all fangs and all claws ready to rip and tear.
I got that unrighteous decrees in case you want that one.
Okay.
This is Psalm 64 and 5.
Oh, you got the 38 and 12? And we'll start with that one. And then you said you had one?
I just said that unrighteous decrees in case you wanted that one.
Yeah, we'll get that one after we get this Psalms 38 and 12, Baba Kasha.
Come on. This is Psalms chapter 38 and verse 12. It says, they also that seek after my life lay snares for me.
Lay snares, lay traps, putting all these different agendas and buzzwords like Black Hebrew Israelites, Black identity extremists, threats of so-called DT or fabricated incidents out there, you name it. Everything to, again, gear it towards coming after the men of the Lord. Keep going on.
And they that seek my hurt speak mischievous things.
Speak mischievous things. And what we just went through in that article is a mischievous thing. The Department of Homeland Security coming out with new guidelines saying so-called anti-governmental speech, so-called speech against the Krispy Kreme or masking or Valerie, situations happening on the 9/11 anniversary, etc., would be considered possible triggers and warning signs to let people know that somebody could be a DT or is planning on committing a DT act. And recently, Facebook just came out with a measure saying that, look, if you believe somebody is showing seditious tendencies or DT tendencies, you can report them to the authorities. And then Joe Biden just came out and said, hey, we're coming out with a program out there to where if you expect loved ones have been radicalized by content on the internet, you can report them. And what should come to your mind? A man's foes shall be they of his own household. Hey, I have come not to bring peace, but the sword and division. A son shall be set against father, mother against daughter, brother against sister, etc. Expect with the times to come that some of the first people to turn you in when the pressure's really turned up is your so-called loved ones, your family members, and even your women, even your children. It says this all throughout the scriptures. And it all begins with Esau putting that narrative out there. And hey, some brothers have been blessed with family members and loved ones that may be sympathetic to what they're in, at least for now. But a lot of brothers out there have family members that already look at them as a weirdo, like they're in a cult or they're a Muslim or anything like that. I've had my family members joke about me having the beard, saying, "Oh, you look like a tarot." We'll just use that word. You look like a tarot, or you look like Osama bin Laden. So that narrative, having a beard, looking rough and scraggly, is already out there. These are those mischievous. This is him speaking those mischievous things. And if you wouldn't mind, we'll get that word mischievous in the Strong's.
Come on. This is in the Strong's definition. It says, in the sense of eagerly coveting and rushing upon.
Let me just get out. It's H 1942 Hava'a, and in the Strong's definition it says in the sense of eagerly coveting, taking something and rushing upon. And what should come to your mind when the enemy comes in like a flood? And this is the beginning of that flood. If this is a dam, these are the little holes in the dam right now with that water coming through. Hey, the beginning measures, laying the snares and the groundwork, putting that idea in people's heads out there and what could be considered a DT, Black nationalist, Black identity extremist, Black Hebrew Israelite. So when that dam busts open and that enemy comes in like a flood with the troops, the draconian measures, the camps, the guillotine, everything, people will be more easily acceptable to letting people get thrown under the wayside. Oh, he already fits all these different guidelines that the Department of Homeland Security put out. You know what? Not only do I not give a second thought to him getting sent off somewhere, you know what? I'm actually telling where he is. And how much more when they put a reward out there. Hey, we're coming into some very serious times, Akim.
And the outline in biblical usage, it says desire in a bad sense.
Desire in a bad sense. Hey, that devil coming down in great wrath because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. His desire to bring about his NW0, his desire to get this word out of the way, because this word is exactly what's putting a monkey wrench in all his plans. Again, back in Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Salakia. You can keep going.
It says, chasm, figuratively of destruction, engulfing ruin, destruction, and calamity.
Khan.
Continuing in Psalms 38, verse 12, and imagine deceits all the day long.
Imagine deceits all the day long. Hey, as it says all in Psalms, hey, these devils can't go to sleep unless they think of mischief. And as it says in Micah chapter 2, they work evil upon their beds so that they may practice it in the light. All these things we're seeing right now are agendas they were working on behind the scenes, setting everything in place, making it sound just right, packing it just right to the people, so that when it comes out in the mainstream media, it just seems like a natural occurrence. It doesn't seem like an agenda targeting a particular group of people, because they make it sound so good, because they're that serpent. Oh, well, yeah, I'm against 911. I'm against Al-Qaeda or the Taliban doing anything. I'm against white supremacists, black Hebrew Israelites. I'm against DTs or anything like that. Anything I can do to help to get things going back to normal. We want to be heroes. We don't want to aid and abet anybody that could be committing a so-called DT act.
Psalms 38.
Kind of just get that word deceits in the Strongs, Baba Gasha.
This is the word deceit. It says
Strong's H 4820. Mirma.
Mirma.
in the outline of biblical usage, deceit and treachery.
Deceit and treachery. And this is exactly what all this is. Deceit and treacherous acts. Hey, them speaking mischievous things against the men of the Lord, setting up the groundwork in the back so when they practice it in the daytime, putting it on NBC News, it's packaged just right. It's on a mainstream news network. Hey, the news would never lie to us. They're telling us all this for our own benefit, to protect us so we can get things back to so-called normal.
In the Strong's definitions, it says, in the sense of deceiving and fraud, craft, deceitfully, and false, feigned guile, subtlety, or subtly, and treachery.
Okay, that's loaded. Let me see it real quick, Baba Kashan. As it says in the Strong's definition, a sense of deceiving, fraud, and that's what all this is fraud. We're simply preaching the 144% truth of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, saying what the Messiah looks like, what the Most High looks like, who the people of the Most High are, who the Edomites are, what's going to happen to Babylon, and everything. But they want that through their craft, through their deceitfulness, through their falsehood. They commit this fraud, trying to keep up this business as usual narrative, keeping up Caesarea Borgia, keeping up plantation Christianity, even though they're pretty much done with that. They're just pushing atheism now and evolution and the alphabet agenda and all that. That's the new truth. That's the new reality. Everything else is old mysticism that only leads to what? So-called DT. Look at what these Islamic extremists are doing, following after their religion. You had 911 and you had all these different attacks. And it's going to be no different with these so-called black Hebrew Israelites. They talk against this system and they seem very similar to those Muslims. So they must be one and the same. Hey, those are just a bunch of angry black men, angry Hispanic men, angry Native American men that are just lazy. They believe they didn't get a fair shake in life. Look at these coons over here. Well, they aren't going to call them coons. Look at these successful black, Hispanic, and Native American men out here. They made it in society. Hey, they're loved by everybody. Kevin Gates, LeBron James, all these bootlickers out here. You just need to try harder. You need to stop blaming the so-called white man, the black woman. You don't have a job. You don't have a woman. Whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. All this subtlety and treachery that this devil, this physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan is coming with. God, you got your precept, all right?
And precept of 1 Peter 5 and verse 8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour."
Hey, be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary the devil, like a roaring lion, goes about seeking whom he may devour. Hey, that lion is coming with that great flood, opening his mouth, showing those fangs, and trying to seek whom he may devour. And we're seeing a lot of it right now. Hey, a lot of jakes that were talking a big game, saying they weren't going to go on a date with Valerie, or willing to lose their job or anything like that, or folding like lawn chairs out here. And E hadn't even really put in the pressure. People hadn't even lost their jobs yet. People haven't had their kids taken away. People haven't been sent to isolation centers or anything like that. You don't have troops on the street. You don't have that barrel of the gun to your head. That pressure really hasn't hit. So you Akim, really got to examine yourselves out here. It's one thing talking a big game. It's a whole other thing walking a big game, especially when everything we've been preaching about is coming to pass. You really gotta analyze and count the costs of this truth you came into, the spiritual building you're building, as it says in Luke 14, counting the cost and making sure you're sufficient to build this building. Because hey, a lot of people out here, when this devil comes about like a roaring lion, hey, they're going to get devoured, and that building's going to be left to the wayside with thorns and thistles and bushes growing over it, and that's going to be their memorial. And we definitely know that if you're in this truth, you want those good works to follow you. You want those works that you stood firm no matter what, as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach to the bitter end. Whether you make it all the way through, you have to be a martyr. You still stood firm and didn't give in to Vanessa. You didn't give in to Marcus. You didn't give in to E or the NW0 or anything. You're going to have those good works and that eternal memorial being of that elect number. But if you allow this lion, this devil, physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan to devour you, that's going to be your works. Brothers really need to think about it like this. What we're going through right now are being recorded, and it's going to last for eternity, just as these scriptures have lasted for thousands of years. As the prophets of old went through things, people still know of these accounts and these names, even if they don't believe in the Bible to this very day. So how much more when the kingdom of heaven is established, when the elect, Abaratazah, the brother and myself, and you sincere Akim out there are part of that number, once that comes, imagine that eternal memorial, but in righteousness and in rulership. You're going to be known as one of those ones that stood firm to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. That's worth anything that is coming our way. And I know it's much easier said than done, Akim, because hey, we're still in these fleshly bodies. You still get the demons plaguing you and thoughts in your head, but you just gotta say fuck that shit and just keep going with it. Pray, fast, fellowship with the brothers, read, do whatever you can, because this is the last shot. This is the last reincarnation for the kingdom, and there are no do-overs after this. So you that have been preached these lovely words, you just gotta hold it, Akim. That's all that can really be said.
This is Job 5 and 21. It says, "Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh."
Hey, thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue. And what was that last part that said,
"Neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh."
Hey, all these scriptures talk about, as it said in Sirach 2, for example, hey, when you come into this truth, my son, prepare for temptation, but put all your chips and trust in the Lord, and he will defend you in that day. If you truly believe in Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai and these scriptures, and know that, as it further says in Psalms 2, remember the generations of old, did anybody ever call on the Most High and was forsaken? You'll know that what happened to our forefathers in the past, one of my favorite accounts being Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for not worshiping the image that Nebuchadnezzar put up. They were thrown into that fiery furnace. But what happened? That fire was so hot, It burned the people outside of the furnace, but as for them, they didn't even have smell of smoke on them. Not only that, but when Nebuchadnezzar's men looked in the furnace, they saw a fourth person in there, like the Son of Man, Yahushua, setting up that standard. As it says in Revelation, if you, I don't even want to butcher it because it's so beautiful. I know what it says. Okay. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. And just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they kept the patience and the word of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua in the past, and the Most High kept them through their hour of temptation, that fiery furnace in Babylon. And where are we at right now? Spiritual Babylon. And what are we trying to be ultimately saved from? That nuclear fiery furnace. And that all comes with keeping that patience, actually truly believing these words and knowing that the Most High will make a way for us as long as we stand 10 toes down in this word, in this truth, not giving way, being good soldiers of Yahushua HaMashiach, not being entangled with the affairs of this life. Hey, we're coming into the times where these can't just be words in a book. You got to talk the talk, which Jake's world renowned for talking the talk, but it's coming to the time where you got to walk the walk too. And you got to walk it with your chest out and your neck straight. You had another one out? Okay, well, then we'll get actually, we might just end it off in this Psalm 64. We'll read verses 1, 2. Actually, we'll still get the 37, but we'll read Psalm 64, start at verse 1, read down to verse 5, Baba Kasha.
Start at verse 1?
Khan.
This is Psalms 37 and verse 1.
Oh, 64. Khan.
Psalm 64 and verse 1. Hear my voice, O Yahweh, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Verse 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity.
Hey, the secret counsel of the wicked, the devices of the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, the elites behind the scenes with their different warlocks and witches and other people they have in place, working their evil upon their beds, setting up these different agendas to come after us, and then packaging it just right when the morning is, when the light is day, and they show it out forth, showing it on NBC News, saying that so-called anti-government, so-called Krispy Kreme, whatever, are signs for DT that you have to look for. And when you're in the spirit, knowing full well that the main target of these agendas is the men of the Lord, primarily GMS.
Verse 3, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words.
Hey, who whet their tongues like a sword. Esau's got that physical sword that people are used to, the guns, the tanks, the planes, the troops, but he's also got that more subtile sword, that tongue the sword, shooting arrows like bitter words, putting out all these demonization campaigns out there, linking us to Islamic extremism, black nationalism, black identity extremists, black Hebrew Israelites, the list goes on and on. Putting up that narrative to the people that, like, look, this is the main problem. We got to do something about them. So when they actually make a move, a lot of people won't give a second thought to us getting sent off to places like Guantanamo Bay or any other facilities they have set up for us.
Even bitter words. Verse 4, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him, and fear not.
Keep going up.
Verse 5, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them?
And a lot of people don't see him, as we can clearly see. It's a well-known fact, or it should be a well-known fact at this point, that red or blue, conservative, liberal, it's all just a facade. It's all just two horns like a lamb on that dragon, which is all pushing forward the agenda of these elites. Same thing with what's getting pushed in NBC News or all these different agendas. they rightly assume that the majority of people out here are sheeple, and they just believe whatever they hear on the news, and they don't look deeper at the agenda, seeing that there's a bigger thing at place behind the scenes. So that's why they're confident in shooting at secret at the perfect. Nobody's gonna realize that we know that these Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the Israelites, or that these men out here are actually the true prophets of the Lord. They're just gonna look at them as bug outs and terrorists and black identity extremists, so we can handle them any which way they want. But as it said up in verse 1, hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. And as the brother brought out in Job, we shouldn't be afraid of these things to come, because we know, as it says in Isaiah 59, that when the enemy comes in like a flood, that's when that standard's going to get set up. And as it says in that Revelation 3 verse 10, if ye keep my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. We're coming into the times to where the unbelievable are about to become the believable, Akim. The Most High is going to set up that standard, and miracles and protections and everything that's just going to completely validate everything we've been preaching are going to happen before our very eyes. So that's why we comfort one another with these words, as it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Hey, the Most High's got our back. We just have to keep up the end of our deal, and he's going to keep up his. And this man is going to be made a laughing stock. A laughing stock on this side, seeing his plans fall apart, and then in the kingdom of heaven, when he's going to be under our feet, everybody's going to know that this was that base man. Is this the man that turned the world into a wilderness? It'll be like a dream in that day. But we have to just constantly endure so we can make it to that point, to be that first fruits, to see the fall of our enemies, and be the first ones to get our hands on his red rusty neck. Yeah, now we're gonna close it out in that Psalms 37, Baba Kasha. Hey, this is what's gonna happen when that devil shoots those bitter words at the men of the Lord and comes in like a flood.
What verse?
Psalms 37, start at verse 12.
It's Psalms 37 and 12. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth.
With his teeth, showing those fangs like a roaring lion, speaking those bitter words, those mischievous words, those treacherous words. Hey, having his tongue like a sword. Keep going on.
Says verse 13, the Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming.
The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his worthless red ass's day is coming. As it says in Job, he has set the bounds which he cannot pass. The Most High has you Edomites and you elites in a trick bag. When you make your moves, when you come in like a flood, when you mandatorily implement the Marcus, that's when the Most High is going to checkmate you. Everything he wanted you to do to fulfill prophecy, to bring about your end, you're going to do it right on time. You're not going to skip a beat, and you're going to go down without skipping a beat. You lost before you even started.
Verse 14, the wicked have drawn out the sword, and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation.
As it says in Isaiah, I believe 29, they make a man an offender for a word. We're speaking the ultimate upright conversation. We're speaking the only true way to live life. But yeah, they seek to slay those that speak of an upright conversation, because by us doing this, again, as it says in Matthew 24, verse 14, preaching these words, we're bringing about the end of his wicked kingdom.
Verse 15, their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bows shall be broken.
Hey, they're going to fall into their own traps. Their swords are going to go into their own bellies. They're going to make a move against the men of the Lord, and that's it. Brothers are going to get spiritual powers. Brothers are going to get out of situations. E gets some brothers in concentration camps, and ultimately implementing this MOTB. All that's going to fall into his own belly, because all these different things are leading to those nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth. And hey, the end of his rulership and the ushering in of our kingdom. So you, Akim, actually should be praying for these things to come to pass, because the sooner E makes his move, the sooner the Most High is going to set up his standard, and the sooner his sword is going to go into his own belly, and he's going down, and we're going to be in rulership for eternity.
Can I get one more?
Oh yeah, you got it.
This is Romans 8 and 28. And we know that all things work together for the good, to good So like, I'm start over. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Most High, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
And all things work for good for those that love the Most High. We know, as we've been reading through the scriptures, when E makes his move, that's when the Most High is going to make his move. And as long as we keep the patience of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, he's going to keep us from the hour of temptation. Hey, we've got nothing but good things coming to us, Akim, as long as we endure and hold on to the end. And again, hey, a lot of brothers are going to make it, and some brothers are going to be martyrs. But hey, if that's your case to be a martyr, just remember, you're going out as it says in Psalms, the death of his saints are beautiful to him. The Most High marred his own son and made him a sacrifice, and look where he's at, sitting at the right hand of his Father. So those brothers that do happen to be martyred, hey, you're going to be at the right hand of Yahweh Shai, being the first fruits, waiting to come to save the rest of the elect. So if you make it without a scratch, hey, it's a win-win. And if you go out enduring without not giving in, hey, you win. As long as you don't give in, as long as you don't take Valerie or hang out with Marcus or anything like that, you win. It's a winning thing as long as you put all your chips in Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai and keep that diligence and patience and faith of the saints. Any things you want to say, I? Oh, Khan. So with that, we hope this lesson was edifying to you, sincere Akim out there. And again, as always, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.